welcome to the channel, and welcome to episode 9 of the Sunday Sum Up, where I talk about the week's news, video games, TV shows, and movies from a Normies perspective. So I am late this week for sure. Recorded last night on Sunday, and I just had one of those nights where I kept looking at the clock, and it was late, and I got a really late start, and I went for like 2 hours, and by the time I finished, I still had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 more topics to go. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, fuck, I have to get up early. And I just started stressing. I started like pushing, trying to go as fast as I could. And I really don't like doing that. So hopefully I have plenty of time right now. I think I'm good. So let's go ahead and dive into this. First thing I want to talk about is I'm still watching the Halo TV series. And I just got to say, I think I may have missed an opportunity for reviewing this show because it is shockingly bad, really fucking bad. I can't believe that Microsoft, because they hold the IP. I can't believe they okayed this. I mean, this is garbage. It is absolute trash, but it's funny. I'm laughing when I'm watching this show. As I said before, I watch it on my lunch breaks. But as I was sitting there, I took my laptop to work, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I started watching on my phone, having my lunch, and I broke out my laptop. I had to take some notes because the shit that's going on in the show is just cracking me up. So, one thing that I will say that I've said before, they're going out of their way to keep Master Chief out of the fucking helmet. He never wears it, ever. He never wears that fucking thing. It's never on. Anytime he's going to talk, essentially, he's taking that fucking thing off. And I think the guy is a good actor. I've seen him in I guess I can't say that. I've seen him in one movie that I really liked, and I thought he was good in it. But that's the only movie, so I can't say he's a good or bad actor. But this is not good. His acting's shit, and his character, all he does is stare. He just stares at shit, and he's so monotone. He's very robotic in a way, but not like the cool robotic way. Not like the cool Jack Reacher robotic where he looks robotic, but then he has some flair to him. He uses his words, and no, this guy's it's just not happening. And this to me is, again, this is not Halo. I see this as like a guy who's cosplaying as Master Chief, and they use a couple of names for like vehicles and locations and things, and obviously his name, but this is not Halo to me. But so I was watching, I'm sorry. And the main character, her name is Quan, and because she is the main character, it's not Master Chief. And her story is just, she's annoying. Like, she's just an annoying character. Her haircut, and I don't know who the fuck greenlit her haircut, but they need to be fired. She's got the Dumb and Dumber front bowl cut, and then a mullet in the back, and like shaved sides. It's trash. And it's funny because she only has like 2 or 3 looks. Like, she's either like shocked, or she's crying, or she's angry and scowling. That's really it. And she's just sort of moving through the show. There's no real arc or anything. Like, the beginning of the show, she loses her father in the first episode, and you kind of felt bad for her. I did, and I was like, okay, what's up? But then after that, she's just been sort of marching around and just telling people what to do, and everyone just does it. It's just weird. So she's working with the guy who is the, oh God, what was his name? Soren. So Soren, who is, I believe he's like I think he has like number 066 on his chest or some shit like that. But let me check real quick, because I'm pretty sure he is like, let's see. Yeah, Soren 066. And he's played by Bokeem Woodbine. I actually like the guy. He's pretty good. I don't think he's great, but he's got a real distinct and cool voice, which always kind of grabs me. He was in the movie Devil, and he was in the remake of Total Recall with Colin Farrell. He's been in some other stuff too, but his acting in this show is terrible too. And he's supposed to be like this sort of pirate, and it's him and Quan. They've been linked up by Chief. He dropped her off essentially as and he's going to be the babysitter. And she just says, like, one time, she says, "Take me back to my home planet and I'll pay you." And the guy's like, you don't have money. And then she just lies and says, I know someone who has money, like my dad or something, or the rebels or some shit like that. And without even questioning anything, he just says, okay. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And they take off. It's like, it's a fucking risky ass gamble, you know, but, and it felt like something that had no weight to it. It was like, she just said it and he just left. So now they're on Madrigal and they're getting chased by some assassin, and it's so fucking terrible. So the assassin is a woman, and that's not the terrible part. The terrible part is, Soren he was in the Spartan program. So he's been altered physically and he has enhancements. So him doing, miraculous shit makes sense. But the woman who is coming after him, or coming after Quan, I should say, he shoots her and she goes flying out of a window. She's 3 stories up, 4 stories up, and she pulls like a full on like Sonic or Mario, or Metro, just like ding, ding, ding. She just jumps back and forth off the walls all the way down. She's just a person. And that's not how gravity works. You don't get knocked out of a window and then you land on a wall and then you have enough momentum to push yourself back the other way and then push yourself back the other way. It's just so stupid. And if she was a Spartan, no questions. Everything's fine. If she had some sort of superpowers or enhancements, I'm fine. But she doesn't. She's just a person. And it was so fucking cheesy. It was just bad. And then so we saw I think it was episode 1. And it's so funny because they do everything to keep Master Chief out of the helmet. So much so that we've seen him fucking naked. So he can't have his helmet on. And they stripped his ass down. So we get to see some man butt in the bathroom when he's digging out this sort of it's an emotion chip that suppresses emotions and prevents the Spartans from having any sort of feelings of, regret or fear or anything like that. So he digs it out, and another Spartan sees him, and she decides she's going to follow suit after he leaves. She digs out hers, and it's so fucking goofy because they have to like take a knife and cut it out of their back, out of the small of their back, which is kind of weird anyways, but she has blood all over her hands. She takes the blood, and for whatever reason, it's like she's going through like her emotional awakening, and she takes the blood and like rubs it on her hair and gives herself blood highlights on each side, and then pulls her hair back. And now that's how we know her. Like that's her hair is now dyed blood. It's so stupid. And it doesn't make any sense. And I mean, it would have been cool. They could have handled it so much better with, her exploring emotions and learning. But it's just weird. She has the actress, I should say, who's playing her, she's not good. And now she's working with Halsey's daughter, Miranda. And Miranda's now assisting Halsey with the artifact, the big MacGuffin that's everyone's sort of chasing. The Covenant's chasing, the UNSC is chasing, and Master Chief is ultimately chasing too. So Miranda and this, I forgot the Spartan's name, doesn't matter. They're talking, and it's so ridiculous because this whole time, the Spartans have been fighting the Covenant. And they've been fighting them for so long that they have learned the language. So 3 of the Spartans are standing around, and Miranda's working on like some sort of computer or whatever. And she's listening to recordings of the Covenant, the soldiers like on the battlefield when they say shit. And they're like, oh, that means this. And they're saying that. And she's so surprised. And all of a sudden it's like, she's like, oh my God, you guys know this language? And it's like, well, of course they do. Like they're the only ones who have been on the battlefield that kill the Covenant. Like the Marines they get wiped out every time they show up. Only the Spartans can fight them. And not only that, but it's like, they even go as far as Miranda they write it in there so that Miranda says, I can't believe we never asked this before. I can't believe we never used you before. And it's like this big breakthrough that on a whim, one of the Spartans or all 3 of the Spartans just happen to be there the one time they're talking about the Covenant language, and then they all just start speaking it. Like it's it's their second language. No big deal. So fucking annoying. But it's little writing things like that. But then it's the goofy shit, the really, really goofy shit. Like, so on Madrigal, where Soren and Quan are being chased because Quan is now wanted, they get on a bike. He steals a bike. It's a fucking, I used to ride dirt bikes. it's a stripped down dirt bike with some like plastic shit bolted onto it to make it look like it's not. But you can tell, and I thought this was the future. It's like every vehicle in this world looks like, for the most part, looks like vehicles you see outside of your window right now, except the Warthog or specific. Or what's the other one? I forgot the vehicle that's on the. I can't think of the name, but it flies. But the ones that are on the ground, they're just regular vehicles, and it looks cheap, like very poorly done. So they get on a dirt bike and they're bouncing out because they're getting chased. And the bad guy shows up, the mustache twirling bad guy on Madrigal shows up, and I shit you not, he's in a fucking Cadillac Escalade. All the emblems are pulled off, obviously, and there's a couple of plastic pieces bolted onto it to make it look different. But it looks like a brand new Cadillac Escalade. It's just lazy. It's so lazy. And it's funny because you see cheap shit like that, but then you see Master Chief and the UNSC, they ride around in Warthogs. So it's like, oh, look, we did the one thing. We put this one thing that's from the lore, but then we went totally cheap on this other side. And it doesn't make any sense. And the other thing, too, is like their guns. The people on Madrigal, they're using AK-47s. Look, the Kalashnikov is a great gun. Everyone knows it's like one of the most like resilient rifles and all of guns. You can stick that thing in the mud, the sand, you can shoot it underwater. It's one of the best guns ever made. But I doubt that to see a movie like this, or a show, I should say, so far into the future, and to see them using AK-47s, riding dirt bikes, and driving Escalades, it's poor quality. The acting is just trash. Everything about it's just trash. It's funny. I mean, and I kind of feel like I should have done a review on it, but the first episode I watched, I was like, this is kind of annoying. And then the second episode, I really got annoyed. Now all of that's gone. Like I don't have any issues with it now because this isn't Halo to me, and I'm still just a normie when it comes to Halo. I've only played the first 2 games. I played them both and beat them both. Loved them. I have good memories of them, but I didn't play 3 or Reach or anything. I haven't played any other Halo game since. So going into it from a lore perspective, I am a normie. So I was kind of looking forward to learning some shit. Seeing what they would do. Like maybe they would use, because like if I watch a podcast or listen to an Xbox, show or whatever, or TV reviewer or whatever who's played the original games, if they say like, oh, this is just like the lore, they're using a lot of good stuff, that would be interesting to me. It's like a learning experience. And I think I would feel a little bit better about just how bad the acting is and bad the directing is and the CGI. Oh, God, the CGI is terrible. I think I would feel a lot different, but because they openly said they're throwing the games out. They don't want any attachment to the actual game. They want to make their own shit. It's just like a big fuck you to the fans. It really is. So, but now I'm like over that. Whatever. They're being stupid, and they already put one episode. They put the series premiere on YouTube for free, and I think they took it off. But I know they put it on a couple weeks ago because they can't get anybody to watch this shit. And it's not getting any good reviews. Anybody that I've listened to online who are watching the show, they all hate it. So, but I think I kind of missed an opportunity because now I'm kind of having fun with it because it is just a joke. All right, so moving along to the next thing that I'm watching. So Moon Knight, I'm still watching it. I know I said I was going to do a review, and I hate going back on my word. I don't like saying that I'm going to do something, review something, and I don't. It does bother me. But when I watched the first episode, I really like Oscar Isaac, and I think he's doing a really good job. The character that he is portraying, because he's portraying multiple characters, I actually like it. This character he's playing, Steven. I don't know shit about the lore. I have no idea. And I'm pretty sure that I would be surprised if 95% of the viewers of this show actually even heard of Moon Knight until the show, because it's pretty, from my understanding, it's pretty obscure. Like it's not one of the mainline characters, but it looks cool. Like the trailer, I thought looked pretty rad. But Oscar Isaac and the personality that he's portraying as this character named Steven, I really like the character. He's funny. He makes me laugh, but I can kind of see what they're doing with this character. Now, there's other, and I'm going to kind of spoil a little bit here, so I am going to talk just a little bit about like what's going on, but he has like multiple personalities and he's unaware of the other ones. And Steven is the first character that we're introduced to. And then there's another one. His name's Mark. And then there's, I think there's a third one coming. So I've seen 4 episodes so far. And the Steven character I thought was funny. But then when we got introduced to the Mark character, I thought we were going to go in a totally different direction, you know? And I don't know. It's kind of losing me. The CGI is really bad. I think the special effects are not good. There's been, what, 2? I think like 2 actual fight scenes that we've seen, like Moon Knight in like full garb kicking some ass. And I see I'm on we just finished episode 4. I think that's where we are right now. And it's just losing me. Like since episode 1, I thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was great or anything, but I thought it was an interesting story that I wanted to know what was going on. But each episode since has progressively gotten worse. So it's kind of bumming me out. And again, I don't want to go back on my word here, but I'm thinking what's best is we're already at episode 4. I haven't even cut a review. I actually started to do my review or my write-ups for episode 1 and 2. And I'm sitting there writing notes. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna review this. And then we watched the 3rd episode, and I was like, this is not good. And so it's starting to lose me. It's starting to do the shit that I was afraid it was gonna do, where Moon Knight, if we don't get to see Moon Knight, first of all, like I was expecting to see a little bit more of the actual character. The story itself, it's kind of pretty one note. It's basic bitch, plot. They're chasing a MacGuffin like normal. There's a big baddie, and Ethan Hawke, who plays the antagonist. I really like Ethan Hawke. I think he's a good actor. I don't think he's great, but this performance from him, he feels miscast to me because, and like his tour de force was Training Day with Denzel Washington, one of the greatest movies out there. It's just spectacular, and Ethan Hawke was great in that movie, but the character that he's playing right now, I don't know, it just feels wrong. It doesn't feel like it fits him. It doesn't feel like him as an actor. So, and he's got like this long hair and shit, and the look is kind of weird. So I don't know. I'm not saying that he's trash, but he's just not good. I just don't think it's that good. I think Ethan Hawke's a decent actor, but this is just a bad role for him. And then the third main character, who is Mark's wife. Yeah, Mark's wife. It's already happening where she's sort of taking the lead, where she's taking charge and she's leading Steven around, and then she's doing things that, like, look, I wish that they would stop being Hollywood. I wish they would stop being afraid to show, a woman with any sort of vulnerability, any sort of shortcoming or anything, because she doesn't have one so far. And she's getting tossed around. Like, she got tossed around by some magical fucking beast or whatever. And the creature knocked over Moon Knight while he's Moon Knight, and then knocks her around, and she just gets up and walks away from the shit. And he's a superhero, They explain as much, like when he transforms into Moon Knight, he has, super speed, super strength. He knows how to fight. His reflexes are very high. So, and he's invulnerable. He can just take bullets, no big deal. And I just feel like we watched the last episode, and Normie wife, I was like, what'd you think? She was like, I am really struggling with this. And he's the only reason that I'm watching this. And I kind of feel the same way. Like, Oscar Isaac, to me, he is a leading man. You can put him in a role like this and he can carry the show. If he was not in this movie and they didn't have someone of his caliber, this show would have been, I would have turned it off after the first episode. The only reason I'm watching is because he's a good actor. But I don't think I don't know. I think I'm going to just finish it out, and I'm just going to do kind of a quick review, basically talk a little bit more about what I've talked about so far, because there's really not a lot to talk about. There's not a lot going on. It's just they're chasing a MacGuffin. Ethan Hawke is a weirdo, bad guy. And I thought there was going to be a lot of talk of like Egyptian gods, because that's sort of the basis of the story, but it's kind of lame the way they're doing it. They're using like they're using poor CGI for one god, and then who's around all the time, and then they're using people in what they call avatars for the other gods. And I don't know, it's just not hitting me. So I don't think you're missing anything. Um, I don't think I think for for general normies, because I'm a normie, but I'm a little more. I'm selective on the things that I'll watch, and I'm selective on things that I think are good. And I know sometimes I may come off being harsh on some of these things, but it's the same thing over and over, and I can already see the same thing happening again. Same thing happened with Hawkeye. Same thing happened with Star Wars. It's the rinse and repeat with Disney and Marvel. So speaking of Marvel, let's move on to the next. So Thor: Love and Thunder trailer came out, and I laughed my ass off. I thought it was goofy. I thought it was funny, but all in the wrong ways. For all the wrong reasons, I think I think it's hysterical. Thor is, if I'm not mistaken, let's see, Captain America is an old man now. He turned in the shield. Iron Man's dead. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Endgame. And then, really, there's Thor. So Hawkeye is now Kate Bishop. And who's the next big one? Scarlet Witch is a deity, essentially, who can do no wrong. And there's really no other, major, Doctor Strange, whatever. I can't think of really any other main characters from the actual Avengers that are left that are the same character. And Thor, I thought was going to be one of them. He's not. He's a totally different guy. He's this sort of cheesy, comedic thing, actor now. Or, I'm sorry, not actor, character. And this feels like Ragnarok 2.0. That's all it feels like. And the director, his name's Taika Waititi, I think that's his name. He's the director, and he's said some things that I don't approve of, talking shit on the fans, talking shit on lore. I can't stand that shit. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, regardless. But I still think Ragnarok I thought it was a decently funny movie. I thought it was humorous, colorful, and it was a nice little adventure. But I didn't think it was a great movie. I didn't think it was spectacular or anything. I thought it had some funny moments, and it kind of had, I guess, a couple of, Helena. I thought she was gorgeous, and she was a really cool looking chick, but I just, we couldn't see Helena and Thor actually fight because that breaks the rules of Hollywood now. You can't have a male fighting a female. That's wrong. It's got the wrong image, I guess, even though they're both gods. And now Thor just sort of has turned into this goofball. I thought in Endgame, what they did to Thor was one of the worst things about Endgame. That's one of the things that probably bothers me the most about Endgame. Endgame to me it's a good movie. It has enough good that it has just enough good that I like it, but there is plenty of bad that prevents me from calling it a great movie. And Thor's character being Fat Thor, I just didn't like it. I thought it was stupid. I thought they totally took that character and dismantled him and made him a big crying wussy, and he was so fucking annoying. And now we kind of see it looks like he's in shape, so that's a good thing. At least he's not, and we see him working out and shit in the trailer, but he just seems like a goofy character. And I have a feeling they're just going to make fun of him because he was basically the comic relief in his own movie a lot of the times. A lot of physical comedy involved him getting hurt and falling over and all this stupid shit and getting shocked and tased. I feel like we're going to see the same shit. And then the coup de grace of the trailer is at the very end, where we see Mjolnir, and Mjolnir is the hammer. Thor's hammer that I think it's Helena. She destroyed his hammer in, God, was it Ragnarok? Can't remember. Yeah, it was Ragnarok. And so now he uses Stormbreaker, which is his axe that he made in some forge with a giant dwarf, yada yada. Go watch Endgame. So we see Mjolnir, and it goes flying past him, and a little tiny hand catches it, and the girl brings it down, and it's Lady Thor, and it's oh, what's her name? She played Padme. Oh my goodness, what is her name? Oh, I gotta look it up now. I had it right on the top of my head. I can't remember what it's called now. Thor. God, what is her name? Natalie Portman. There it is. Now, I don't have anything against Natalie Portman. I think she's adorable. I didn't think what I saw looked like her. That's just me. She's a very, very small person. Just in real life, she's like 5'2", 5'3", maybe. What does she weigh? Like a buck 10. And it kind of looked to me like they did some finagling with the lighting or some CGI, because her arms look kind of big and they didn't really match her. And maybe it is. Maybe she's yoked and maybe she busted her ass, and good for her. You go, girl. That's fine. But she's still a tiny, tiny person. She's like Diet Thor, you know? It's like the mini me. She's mini Thor, like mini me Thor. And it's just not enough. It's like when Dr. Evil says that, he's like, just 1 calorie, not evil enough. She isn't Thor enough. It doesn't work. And I was talking to a coworker of mine who is he's a comic book reader, and he buys toys and all that stuff. And I was asking him about, he asked me actually if I saw the trailer, and I said yes. I thought it was stupid, and he liked it. He's a younger cat. He's like 26 years old, and he was starting to tell me about how they are following the comic books. And before he could say anything, I said, hold on, let me ask you a question. Before you say anything else, I said, let me see if I can guess. Okay, because I'm not a comic book reader, so I'm going to take a shot in the dark here. I'm going to guess that there's some magical bullshit reason why she has the hammer. Odin didn't give it to her. Thor obviously didn't give it to her. She can't receive it from a male character. That's breaking the rules that Hollywood has set. So there has to be some sort of magical, majestic reason why the hammer chose her, because that's the rule, right? Because lore says that Odin placed a spell on the hammer, and only those worthy enough to rule Asgard can wield it. What the fuck? Why is she all of a sudden worthy, right? And when I said, some magical reason, he grinned really big, and he's like, well, actually, Mjolnir is actually a sentient being now. I started laughing. I was like, wait. So you tell me the fucking hammer is a person? Like, so it has like, does it have like, cravings? What's its favorite ice cream? Chocolate? What is it? Is it a Beatles fan? Is it a Led Zeppelin fan? Like, what is it? What is it? NWA? What kind of music does it like? It's now a sentient being, the hammer is, and it chose Jane. Why? Like, what the fuck is going on? So I guessed that, and I've never read a comic. And then I said, what was the other thing I was telling him? Oh man, I forgot what it was. Oh, I said, that's right. I said, let me guess. Was this comic less than 5 years old? And he started thinking, he's like, yeah, I think it came out in like 2017. I was like, there you go. So there you go again. Marvel and Hollywood taking an IP that's been around for decades, and then they rewrite some shit, and they take the earliest iteration, which has all their political shit shoved into it and all their ideology shoved into it. So now they have that in their pocket, so they can say, it's part of the lore, it's part of canon, we're just following comic books, so you guys can't get mad anymore. And I'm not a comic book fan, but after what Paramount is doing to Halo, now I get it. I get what the hardcore fans are unhappy about. But there's some other stupid story, I guess, where she apparently has like cancer, and like when she turns into Lady Thor or whatever, that the cancer, the treatments that she's had reverse themselves, because for whatever reason, like the power of the hammer regresses her treatment, so her cancer gets worse or some shit. So it's like the cost of being Thor. She's not Thor. Okay, like Thor is his name. Okay, this isn't a persona like Batman or like Moon Knight. He was named Thor by his parents. You can't just say that you're Thor. It's just like Rey Skywalker all over again. You just say it and then you get it. There's no earning anything. There's no obstacles to overcome. It's just magical bullshit. You get to be this thing now. It's so stupid. So I think this looks terrible. I think it looks really bad. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think I'm going to watch this because I don't want to give money to this project. I may just wait and watch it on TV for free. But I don't know. To me, I just think it looks awful. And if you like it, hey, that's cool. I'm telling you, Hollywood is aiming everything they have at us, at you and me, at the normies. I'm just not the typical normie. I understand that most normies are going to be like, oh my God, it's Thor. He's so hot. Because, look, it's Chris Hemsworth. The dude's a stud. He looks yoked again. Good for him. And he doesn't have to walk around in a fat suit on set. That's a good thing. But this just looks cheesy. They're just shitting all over the fucking lore. And they're shitting all over the IP, and I just don't like it. Even though I'm not a comic book reader, I just don't like it. Okay, that's enough about that. Let's move along here. So Netflix loses 200,000 subscribers, and their stock is tanking. So this actually, I did cheat a little bit because I had written 20%. The stock had dropped like 20% or something like that, but it's like over 30% now. So this is a Bloomberg article here. I'm not going to read a bunch of this really, but this is a Bloomberg article written by, where's the person's name? Where is it? Lucas Shaw. I think I've read his stuff before on here before. So it says Netflix subscribers loss has destroyed employee morale. A record decline in Netflix's share price has shaken employees' confidence in the company's long-term trajectory. As Netflix shares plunge to their lowest point in 5 years, the company risks losing its most valuable resource, its star employees. Working at Netflix has been one of the most desirable jobs in Hollywood, if not all of corporate America. The company ranks as one of the most beloved brands, pays well, and offers a chance to work with the people that change the way we watch TV. But a record decline in Netflix's share price, precipitated by its poor financial results, has shaken employees' confidence in the company's long-term trajectory. It has also erased the value of many employees' options. That sucks. People who were sitting on tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars are left with nothing. Most people are looking to leave Netflix right now than any other point in recent memory, current and former employees said this past week. Netflix employees have asked leadership to issue new stock grants to make them whole for the losses this past week, per the information. So this goes on and on. I'm talking about the chief. So let's see. It says here Netflix grew from 2,000 employees at the end of 2013 to more than 11,000 at the end of last year. So, they've been on top for a long time. I've said it before. I think that the streaming model is not sustainable. I don't believe that it is. I remember years ago listening, I forgot what I don't remember if it was an article that I was reading or just another podcast or something, but I remember that Netflix was losing money, but that was always the plan. Like all the money that they were paying to like hold these license, or I guess it's not holding the license, but probably, I guess it is, right? To hold the streaming rights or the license rights to stream shows like Mad Men or Sons of Anarchy, Friends, things like that. And they were actually, they were paying out more than they actually had, with the expectation that they were going to continue to get these subscribers, which I believe they're at like 180 million or something like that now, which is crazy. It's crazy money. Nothing is too big to fail. And I'm not saying that Netflix is done and that they're over with, but this could be a turn of the tide here. When you think about what Netflix has been doing, I don't know, for the last 5 years with just the ideology and the political shit, it's not surprising. It doesn't surprise me when at some point when you start alienating your audience and you start cramming your beliefs all up in your content, at some point you're going to sort of alienate your audience, right? And I guess when you have 180 million subscribers and they're paying you $15 a month or something like that, they're making billions, annually. So they're not doing bad, and I don't feel sorry for them in any way. But I think that they have been working their way to this point, and I think the model itself was already on shaky ground. I think it can be successful, and obviously it has been, but the moves that they've been making with their personal beliefs as a corporation, this was bound to happen. To me, I thought this was. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner, to be honest with you. And I know 200,000 subs doesn't sound like like a lot. And I know there's people out there saying, "Oh, it's only 200K. Don't get your hopes up. Netflix is still going to kill it." I'm sure they are. I don't think Netflix is going to go away. That's not at all what I'm thinking. But it's the first time in the history of their streaming service that they've actually lost 200,000 subscribers. Like they're 200,000 subscribers less than they had last month. That's the first time they've ever had a number like that, because there's always someone signing up. For every cancellation, there's 2 more subscriptions. And they've been living off that for a long time. So, we'll see. I think that, I think this is kind of just I think we've reached that point, though, where it's possible that the streaming model may have hit its peak. Maybe. I'm not saying that it has, but, this is a big indicator because they're the leader. They are the ones on top. It's Netflix, it's Amazon, and then I'd say Disney's in a distant third, and then it's everybody else nipping at the scraps on the table. So, but I don't feel bad for him. We'll see what happens. All right, moving along to someone I don't feel bad for. Ezra Miller has been arrested again, and I'm going to read the police report here. And this guy, I swear, it's like I read it again, and it was like Frankenstein's monster escaped the castle and was terrorizing the villagers yet again. And I don't know how this guy still has a job. I really don't. I don't know how WB has not cut him loose. This is twice that he's assaulted a woman. Now, this one in particular, when I read the police report, you understand, and maybe he wasn't necessarily trying to hurt a specific person, but it doesn't look good. He's on camera a couple years ago strangling a woman and chokeslamming her, and now he cracks a woman in the head with a chair. So let's read this real quick. So it says, shortly after 1 a.m. on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, a 29-year-old A 29-year-old visitor from Vermont was arrested for second-degree assault after an incident at a residence in Pahoa. I think that's how you say it. At 1:10 a.m., Puna patrol officers responded to a report of an assault that occurred at a get-together at a private residence in the Leilani Estates subdivision in Lower Puna. During the course of their investigation, police determined that the individual, later identified as Ezra Miller, became irate after being asked to leave and reportedly threw a chair, striking a 26-year-old female on the forehead, resulting in an approximate half-inch cut. The female victim refused treatment for her injury. Miller, who identifies as they/them, was subsequently arrested at 1:30 a.m. for assault in the second degree after being located on the roadway during a traffic stop at the intersection of Highway 130 and Kukula Street in Keau. It almost looks like Keanu without an N. After conferring with the county prosecutor's office at 4:05 a.m. on Tuesday morning, Miller was released pending further investigation. So once again, this fucking clown is out fucking up, messing with people. Now he cracked a woman in the head with a chair. This dude is a piece of shit. Sorry. Like, there's no other way to slice it. I thought he was a piece of shit when he was on camera with his hand around a woman's throat and slamming her to the ground. Like, I was done with him then. I thought he was a shitty Flash. At the first time when I first saw him, I was like, he's kind of funny, but he's not the right cast. Like, he's, and the more I watched it, it was like his hyperactive like mentality with his eyes all beady and he wouldn't shut up, and he was just annoying. And that was just the movie side of it. And then when that video came out of him attacking a woman, that was the end of Ezra Miller for me as any sort of a fandom. This dude, he needs to be locked up. I think he's on something. I think it sounds like he has a drinking problem. He's been both of when he was arrested in the bar, when he was arrested for assaulting the woman, then when he was arrested again for, what did he do? Oh, he snatched a microphone out of a woman's hands when she was singing karaoke. Now he's, or he got in someone's face. He threatened a couple, kicked in their bedroom door, said he was going to kill him. Now he's out here throwing chairs, cracks a woman in the head. I mean, does this dude have a problem with women? I mean, like, I know he identifies as they, them, and I don't give a shit. That's whatever. That you want to identify as whatever you want, that's fine. As long as you're, this is always the rule, right? I don't care what you do as long as you don't hurt anybody. This fool's hurting people. He's hurting women. He's hurting people. Now I care. Now this guy can fuck off. I don't care about this guy at all. He needs to be locked up. And money and fame gets you out. That's just the way, that's the name of the game. That's the society that we live in. But I mean, it strikes me weird that his run-ins have involved women. And it's like, there's something there. When you have a person with a habit and, and the things that they're doing have a pattern, all you got to do is read the pattern. And the pattern is this dude he's got an issue with women. He's choked a woman and slammed her to the ground. He's yanked the microphone out of her hand and yelled at her because he was tired of her singing. And now he throws a chair and hits a woman in the forehead. These are 3 common denominators here. And I didn't do the shit this fucking idiot did. So this guy's a tool. So anyways, we'll see what happens with this guy. I just think that WB should be dropping this guy. Johnny Depp got dropped for much less, for absolutely no anything, just allegations. And he was dropped within a week, 48 hours or some shit. He was thrown out of Pirates of the Caribbean, thrown off the Harry Potter movie. I don't know why I have trouble with that. But this guy's okay. So, all right, but that's going to wrap it up for the movies and the Hollywood circus. Let's go on to some gaming news. So first up, I am still playing Lego Star Wars. Still liking the game. I'm on Dagobah, where I'm playing Empire Strikes Back, and I'm playing as Luke, and I just landed on Dagobah, and that's when I saved and quit. Still liking the game a lot. I will say that I think that there's a pattern is emerging, and it's been a long time since I played a Lego game. So I do have to say this. Maybe they've always been like this and I just didn't notice. But this is starting to feel really like a lot. I want the puzzles, and I wish there were more difficult puzzles and things like that. But it's just kind of like an unlockathon. It's really the whole point, right? You unlock characters and ships and things like that. But I don't know. It is fun. I'm still loving it. The music, like I said, love the music whenever I hear that music. The graphics are really cool. They look really good. The reflections and everything looks really good. The sound effects themselves, with all the licensed and trademarked, lightsaber sounds and the laser blast and things, it's all good. But I don't know. I'm having fun, but it is kind of getting a little samey. It is kind of the same. So, but it's the thing is, I think what sort of keeps me from saying, oh, this is repetitive bullshit, is because I do like those OG movies. So when I'm playing along and seeing what Lego has done with those moments, those classic moments of the original Star Wars trilogy, and how they put their comical spin on it, it's fun. I like it. I always enjoy it. So still a good game. And also, so I have a couple of friends of mine. Shout out to David and Preston. So my friend bought a Switch. He got a Switch OLED, and I have a Switch. Don't really play it that often, but he got on Borderlands 2, and he was telling me you should get it. We'll play together. And I played Borderlands 2 a long time ago. I didn't like it too much, but when I played it on my PS4, the craze had left. Like, no one was playing it, and there really wasn't any of my friends to play the game with, and that's the type of game that it is. It's a good game with friends, like having 2 or 3, 4 people in a party, having fun. That's really, I think, the strength of the game. So playing by myself, I didn't really like it. And even now, I played a little bit this last weekend, and neither one of them could get on Saturday night. So I played with myself a little bit because they're level like 15 and 25. And I started off the very bottom. When I started playing with them, they were that level. So I was trying to rank up a little bit so I can catch up to them. And it just wasn't as fun. Not as fun playing, Borderlands by yourself. But when we're all on there together, it's a lot of fun. So I'm liking it. But I think I'm a level 11. And I can see now all the hype that was going on for Borderlands 2 back in the day, I can see why people liked it so much, because it's a pretty decent game. I had to buy a Switch Pro controller because I could not handle that fucking cheap shit. Like it just like I had the controller that came with it, that you take you slide it off and you put the Switch in the dock, and then you have that little controller in the middle. It just felt cheap. It's too close. The buttons are wrong. So I went ahead and forked over the money and got a Pro controller. Changed the whole experience for me. So I highly recommend getting a controller like that, or something of it. It doesn't have to be a Pro controller. It was really expensive. There were some cheaper options out there, but I don't really I haven't had a ton of luck with third-party controller makers, so I just go ahead and usually just buy the brands. I don't usually go with like Mad Catz or anything like that. Not saying that Mad Catz is bad. But anyways, let's move along here. So looking at this story here, so this is about Halo again and 343. So 343 is getting help from another developer to assist them with the development, or I should say the development, I guess, to push the game along further, to help with getting more content to the game. And I've said this before, and I say it again. I think the media always covers for Xbox. When Halo came out last year, it was a 10. It was the king is back. The best first-person shooter has now returned. And Xbox is just like, oh, fucking smacking Sony around. They owned 2021. That's what I kept hearing, is the comments that I was reading. And it was interesting because, I listen to a lot of different podcasts, game reviewers, and things like that. I have the ones that I go to that I trust, and I don't distrust them now. But even the ones that I do have some faith in, they were propping it up, saying how great it was. But it struck me funny that even in those reviews that I liked, they were going on about how great the game was, but they would say specific things like, it's so great to be playing Halo again. The open world is fun, but there is a lot of collecting. It's just sort of like a Ubisoft map, or it's just like a collectathon. You're not really, there's no discovery. You just look on an icon on your map, you go there and you get whatever it is. The mission structure it gets repetitive and boring, and you run through the same areas a lot. The protagonist is boring and one note and has no real character. The story itself was started off slow and was kind of dull, and when it finally picked up at the very end, the campaign was over. The open world itself was, even though it was fun, it was still repetitive. The topography and the biomes were all the same. There was no variety whatsoever. All of these things were being said, and I don't know, 3 or 4 people that I listened to that posted reviews on this stuff, it was all of those things, and it was still a 10. It was still like, but still, it's still Master Chief, it's still Halo, and then it was like, but the multiplayer is fucking spectacular, and it was just how great the multiplayer was. It's perfect. I mean, it was just like, and now, even to 343's credit and Microsoft's credit, the congruent players on Steam, which I think I touched on it last week, which basically just means how many people are playing the game at one time. It keeps track of that. Steam does. And they hit over like 250,000 players in the first week, I think it was. That's nothing to scoff at. That's a great accomplishment and good for Halo. The thing that I always struggle with is I always think that media covers for them. I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people, they got them green tinted glasses on, and it's like, and I understand that, like, to me, Master Chief is, and I think I might have said this before, but like he's etched in the history books as one of the greatest iconic characters in gaming. He's right up there with like Mario. He's that type of character to me. But when I hear reviewers talk about how fucking great a game is, after telling me all of these things that they don't like, or that are lacking, or that are missing, or that I wish, or they could have done this better, and they still give it a 10 or they still give it a strongly recommend, I have an issue with that. It's like, okay, you're covering, it's like they don't want to say anything bad. And I'll give you an example, like going back to even like Halo 5 is one of the probably the most hated stories campaign wise. And that's just in the Xbox community, the Halo community. People did not like that campaign. Game still got a fucking 9, 10, was still amazing. At the time, it was like, oh, this is spectacular. It's great. It's amazing. And I always think it's funny because to me, since 343 has had the keys to the franchise, it feels like the titles always come out with like a gusto and everyone's running to buy it and play it and then go out and post all these reviews and write all these editorials about it. But it doesn't age well. Like it gets sour over time. It doesn't age like fine wine. And, so let's get into some of this article stuff because I wanted to, as I was looking this up, because I heard it on a podcast and I was like, okay, so what do they need help with? And so apparently they're getting help. 343 is getting help for their, the development stuff. And as I looked it up, it was so interesting because I punched it up and I just did a quick, where is it at? Give me 1 second here. 343. So it was funny because I just punched it up like 343 getting help on Halo. That's all I pushed in. And I clicked on an article and I didn't check the date. And I was looking on here and it said Halo Infinite developer 343 got help from Gears of War Coalition. Excuse me. I'm sorry, the Coalition. And I was like, oh shit, that's an old article. But it got me thinking. I was like, well, wait a minute. When they got the game, to even get the game out the door, 343 needed the Gears of War developer, who is the Coalition. They needed their help to fucking finish the game. And that was just a year ago. And it's like, this isn't good, man. Like this is just not good. And I think that 343, I think that I'm wondering when they're going to start getting the reputation that they deserve. They are not doing that well with the Halo franchise. They have been struggling for some time. And I click on this article here, which is, one of the first articles that popped up. This is by Joshua Rivera. It's a cool last name. This is on Polygon. And it says, Microsoft recruits Certain Affinity to help with Halo Infinite. Certain Affinity is the name of the developer that's helping. Even the Master Chief needs help sometimes. So right there, kind of just like, it's not a big deal, right? Then it says, the first line of this article says, Halo Infinite was a nigh-perfect renewal of the Halo franchise. The game has a fun and expansive campaign, a well-tuned multiplayer, and a package that harkens back to the halcyon days of Xbox Live and the sound of power shields charging up. It's like right there. That just proves exactly what I was just been saying. Everyone was just on cloud 9 when it came out. And, people still think that. And he goes further, and I'll finish what he had to say here. It says, it's also been slow to add new content to its excellent but troubled multiplayer mode, but help seems to be on the way in the form of Austin Studios' Certain Affinity, which has been hired to assist 343 Industries in, quote, further evolving Halo Infinite, end quote. And I started reading this article, and it's like, it just seems like, this is just another example. And I'm not a big fan of Polygon. I do read their articles and stuff because that's where most people get their news from publications, unless they know insiders or they're an insider themselves. I'm not, so, I have to get the information wherever I can get it. But I just felt like as soon as I read it, I'm like, this isn't good. Like, this does not look good for 343. And this article was just already trying to make it seem like, it's all good, dude. No big deal. No, this is a big fucking deal. And so I started looking around a little bit more, and I was like, let me see some articles here. And I found a Forbes article. This was by Paul Tassi. And it says, does Microsoft need to give Halo to someone besides 343? Now, this is definitely where my head's at, and that's what I was thinking. When I first heard this, I'm like, God dang, when is Microsoft going to do something about this? Because this is a problem. And I'm not going to read this whole article. It's a long article, and I think it's a good article. But some of the things that they were talking about here, so let's see here. Let me go through some of this. I wanted to talk a little bit about the seasons because they talk about, Oh, dang it. I got to get better at like highlighting and copying and pasting some of the news here, because I read the articles and there's always some things that stick out, and I'm just lazy. I should just be copying and pasting the things that I like in my notes, but I don't. Maybe I should do that. But regardless, so one of the things that I wanted to point out was the big issue right now with Halo Infinite is the multiplayer. They have a battle pass and seasons. So in a nutshell, seasons are just they're just seasonal events that come out for the multiplayer mode, and they have a theme. They usually have gear and cosmetic things that are associated that you can only get during that season. And usually a season typically lasts anywhere from 3 to 4 months. Developers typically take a year and then divide it up into either 3 pieces or 4 pieces. And every season, at the end of every season, that it's over, and then the new season comes out, and then it's a whole new theme, new gear, new whatever, possibly new maps, new content. Basically, it's just new content. The battle pass is it's very common now, and they call it a battle pass, but almost all multiplayer shooters, FPSs, third person, doesn't matter. They usually stick with the battle pass formula, where you pay $10, $15, whatever, and really it's just the best example I can think of is Destiny, because that was the last time I really played a seasonal game. I played some Call of Duty a little bit, but that was a while back. But you essentially you have a meter that you're filling up with like XP, experience points, and the more matches you play, the more kills you get, multi kills, capture the flags, the more matches you win. Things that they have these little sort of markers that the more you can complete and compete in the season event, you will level your battle pass up. So you'll see in Destiny, you could see all the way through level 100. So it was 100 levels, and every time you leveled up, you got something. And in Destiny, you would get cosmetic stuff. The way your ghost looked, you might get a shader for the armor, very specific to that season. You got some currency for in-game stuff. So there was things going on every time. You would get rewards for leveling up. My understanding is Halo Battle Pass is the exact same way, except it isn't fucking 6 months long, and that's what 343 is doing right now. Season 1 was 6 months, and they just announced that season 2 is going to be 6 months again. That's not cool. Like, that's, if you don't know, 4 months is kind of like, okay, that's where we've had enough. That's just how gamers are. And the way most shooters are, I would say the way all shooters are right now, for the most part, they all adhere to those cycles, those 3-4 month cycles. 6 months is too fucking long. You can't maintain, and not only that, but you can't maintain your player count when they reach level 100 or whatever the max level is. I don't know. I saw in the comment section, I saw someone talking about it was like 50, level 50. That's a low. That's low. I mean, you should be at like 100 or something like that. Regardless, if you're going to reach max cap at like 50 in like 3 weeks, then you're done. You have no reason to play the game. Now, of course, the gameplay is king and it's fun and all that shit. But when you have seasonal events, you need to have content always coming in. You got to keep the player coming back. It's like a slot machine. And this is not good. This looks bad. And some of the stuff that they pointed out is some of the things that I've been talking about. And I was kind of happy to actually see, and it's Forbes of all things. It's like, but that's the thing, right? Like, Forbes has to write an article like this because IGN won't, or GameSpot, or whatever the fuck that publication is, Game Informer. They won't really dive in and just say, listen, there's a fucking problem here. 343, they got to be reassessed. And so they talked a little bit about a few things on here. It says a lot of this is subjective, but I don't think you'll find all. I don't think you will find all that many Halo fans that prefer 343's tenure to Bungie's for one reason or another. Generally speaking, the conversation about 343's Halo installments have been Halo 4 had a fairly, now he kind of just starts breaking it down. So in Halo 4 had a fairly decent campaign, but tried to codify its multiplayer in a way that did not work for traditional Halo players at all. Codifying means Call of Duty-fying. Like, Call of Duty is a game, and they really try to chase the Call of Duty, and that because years ago Call of Duty was absolutely king. And then Halo 5 improved multiplayer significantly, but ended up with a very, very poorly done campaign that did not focus on Master Chief enough and is generally thought of as the worst campaign in the series. I 100%, that's all I've heard. Like, that's to me, I think that's objectively the truth, that most people did not like it. And that there was an issue too, because the promos for Halo 5's campaign were very misleading, and playing the game as somebody else other than Master Chief is not playing Halo. It's like, it's like the Halo TV series. It's not like Halo. You got to have Master Chief doing shit all the time. He's the man. He's the hero. And then the next one, Halo Master Chief Collection. It was a long time ago now, but this was truly a disastrous release at launch, where the game straight up did not work for months. They talk about how it slowly improved and it's doing good right now, but I remember that. I don't remember what game I was at GameStop to pick up that night, but I used to show up for like the midnight releases and stuff for the games that I wanted to play for PS4s, PS5. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I didn't with this one because PS5 I had to buy online because there was a fucking chip shortage, supposedly. But, excuse me. But I remember specifically that night, I was still in California. I was in San Marcos. I went to my local GameStop and I was picking up, and I want to say it was like Assassin's Creed, something like that. But I show up to get the game, and there was a line of people, and there were people in line for the game that I was getting, and there was a bunch of people there for the Master Chief Collection. And I'll never forget, I was listening to these guys in line, and there was like in groups of like 2 or 3, or in like these little packs all in the lines, and they're all shooting the shit, and they're like reminiscing, like, oh man, it's just gonna be just like this, and, oh, what are we gonna play first? And they're like excited and they're pumped, and I was like, man, that's kind of cool. I kind of wish I had an Xbox. I'd like to be gaming right now. I wish, but I didn't, and I was fine with it. But I was like, good for these guys. This is awesome. So I left, went home, played the game, whatever. And then the very next day, I was like, one of the first news stories that popped up is that Master Chief Collection had crashed and that it wasn't working at all. And then it like went on for like a couple of weeks where you could not play the fucking game. It was absolutely broken. Lobbies, you'd sit in lobbies forever trying to get into a game. Then the game would start, then you get kicked out. It was just constant. It just was totally an unstable environment. So this game was launched incomplete. This was a broken fucking game. And I couldn't help but think, I was like, God, those guys, man, that sucks, man. Those guys, I could just imagine going home that night and being like, it's on, they got the case of Red Bull, they got bags of Doritos and shit, and like just doing like a late night game sesh till the fucking sun comes up. I've done it before, and to have that just be a night of just frustration, you know what I mean? Like, just it just sucks, and that's happened, and this has all been on 343's watch, and I've talked about it here with Halo Infinite. As I said before, they needed help to get the game going. But not only that, there's other issues here. Like when the game trailer came out at E3, it was trash. It got shit on by most viewers, and they delayed the game for a year, and it came out. And I like I said, I have my like the visual stuff that I saw. I thought the next trailer was not that good. I pointed things out about it on my channel. I have a video about that. It just, to me, 343 is not cutting the mustard. They should not have what they have right now. And I'm not saying that 343 is shit, but they need support, and they've needed support. They've needed time. They needed all the things that they should not be needing. Like they've been in this game for a minute, and they're still fucking up. They're still having problems. And I just think that, at some point, 343, they got to get put in check. And I don't know who else that Microsoft has right now in their stable, but I mean, I can say this doesn't look good for Microsoft, at least from my perspective. I've said it before. I don't think Microsoft and Phil Spencer, I don't think they manage studios well. I think this is just another example, because this isn't their second try. This isn't their first try. This is like their 4th or 5th try. They should not be having these sort of troubles. So, and it sucks for Xbox, Halo fans, because they're, who was I watching? I can't remember which video I was watching. Man, I can't remember who I was watching, but they were talking about the concurrent players now on Steam. It's like 9,000, so they went from like 250,000 to 9,000. So it doesn't look good. Players are walking away from the game, and really, and from my understanding, the game itself is good. Now they were having technical problems still. There's still people posting tweets and shit, posting videos about how the game's broken. They're having like deseeking issues and all this shit. But I mean, for the most part, though, I still think the game it sounds like it's pretty damn good. But there's just no content, and content and gameplay are king. You got to have them both now. When you come to a live service game, content's got to be flowing. That the water just has got to keep going, because live service game players are thirsty as fuck, and you got to keep them quenched. All right, so let's move along here. Moving on to the next story here. Is Gavin Newsom interfering with Activision? So this one I take a little bit of joy, because I'll be honest with you, I lived in California for 18 years, and this joke of a politician is one of the reasons that my wife and I left. So this is on the New York Post. California Governor Gavin Newsom meddled in Activision sex harassment case, reports. Okay, let me read some of this here. This was written by Ariel Zilber. Ariel Zilber. Let's see. California Governor Gavin Newsom interfered in his state's sexual harassment and discrimination lawsuit against video gaming giant Activision Blizzard, prompting two of the lawyers working the case to quit, Bloomberg News reported. There's another thing, too. I tried to read this on Bloomberg because it said they reported it, and then you got to fucking get a subscription. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Melanie Proctor, an attorney with the State Department of Fair Employment and Housing, told staffers in an email on Tuesday that she was resigning to protest Newsom's firing of her boss, Janet Whipper, the agency's chief counsel. Both Proctor and Whipper quit the Activision lawsuit earlier this month, though no explanation was given as to why they departed, according to Bloomberg News. Proctor told staffers that Newsom's office, quote, began to interfere, end quote, with the Activision lawsuit. The, quote, the office of the governor repeatedly demanded advance notice of litigation strategy and of the next steps in the litigation, end quote. Proctor claimed in the email, which Bloomberg obtained, quote, as we continued to win in state court, this interference increased, mimicking the interests of Activision's counsel, end quote, Proctor claimed in an email about Newsom's alleged involvement. When Whipper, quote, attempted to protect the agency from outside interference, she was, quote, abruptly terminated, end quote, according to Proctor. I keep saying quote a lot, and it's kind of getting annoying, but I'm going to do it because I believe that's how it's supposed to be done. Quote, I hereby resign, effective April 13th, 2022, in protest of the interference and Janet's termination, end quote, Proctor wrote. Whipper is reportedly evaluating all avenues of legal recourse, including a claim under the California Whistleblower Protection Act, according to her spokesperson. So let's see. Newsom spokesman Aaron Mellon said that the claims of interference are, quote, categorically false. The governor's office will, quote, continue to support DFEH in their efforts to fight all forms of discrimination and protect Californians, end quote, Mellon said. Last summer, California filed suit against Activision, alleging that Santa Monica-based publisher of popular video games like Call of Duty and World of Warcraft fostered a, quote, frat bro culture full of rape jokes, crude comments, and groping. So I'm not surprised. Politicians in general are pretty fucking dirty. Just the name of the game now. And, with all of social media and all just the internet in general, they have a lot. They don't have as many rocks to crawl underneath and hide. It goes both ways. It really does, because, there are things that I think there are things that politicians say and do that are like, okay, you're just kind of making something out of nothing. But then there's shit like this where it's like, this doesn't look good. This looks like shit, But it doesn't surprise me, because I think Gavin Newsom's a grimy piece of shit, And furthermore, I'd like any career politician for that matter. They've been sitting in office for, 40 years, and they're worth $200 million on a fucking civil servant's wage. Yeah, right. And it's like, and then it's always like, no, that's my husband, or no, that's my wife, or no, that's my brother, it's my son, or it's my cousin. Yeah, it's you. Why are you worth so much money? So, but yeah, this doesn't look good. And, I'll say this and I'll say it, I have to say it again. This is, Microsoft bought into this shit. Microsoft is paying off Activision billions of dollars, like just to own the IP, and they're going to pay these, the frat boy culture guys, the execs or whoever, the the people in charge of them, they're paying them hundreds of millions of dollars, like just packing them full. Their golden parachutes just nice and full of money, and then maybe they're going to fire them, but who gives a fuck? Like it's who cares now? You think Bobby Kotick gives two shits if he's going to make $150 million on the way out the door? Psh, I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't give a shit. So yeah, it sucks, and I think that because I've read comments that say like, well, Uncle Phil's going to clean house and he's going to get in there and he's going to show him what's up, and he's not going to put up with the shit anymore. I don't think you can say that. I don't think paying people, if this is true, but and the thing with this case with Activision Blizzard, they have copped to, like Bobby Kotick, he has copped to things. He's already admitted things, so this really has left sort of just allegations where he's admitted to some of these things, like, yeah, this happened, I'm sorry, and all this other shit. But it still doesn't change the fact it sounds like he's a piece of shit, and it also doesn't change the fact that Uncle Phil paid for the IP, that he doesn't care about these things. He just wants the money. He wants to grow his company. And if paying off people who are treating others like that and running their businesses like shit, what does that say about him? No, I don't think it says anything good to me, but I know I read comments. I love reading them. And that's just something that's like, everyone's like, oh, Uncle Phil's here. He's going to fix that all up and clean it up. And it's like, no, he's not. He's going to pay them. He's going to pay them money. He's rewarding their bad behavior. So, all right, let's move along here. So this story, now this was totally in a podcast, and this was on Twitter. I don't do Twitter. This is literally the only social media that I've ever had an account for. I don't do Instagram. I don't do TikTok or Twitter or anything like that. Facebook, I have no interest in any of that shit. Then I'm not, that doesn't mean like bragging. I'm just saying, so when things are like, it's going on Twitter, it's a Twitter argument, unless there's a story about it, I really can't reference too much like of an article. I can't go and actually read what's going on. But I did find, I was listening to one of the podcasts that I listened to, and apparently this man, his name's David Jaffe. He is the original game director of God of War 1, God of War 2, way back in the day. And he's also, what I recognize his name from is Metal Gear. He was, I think he was the director or creator or whatever of Metal Gear, like 1 and 2, or Twisted Metal, or whatever the fuck it was. That's how I know his name. I actually forgot that he was, involved in God of War 1 and 2. But I guess he made a tweet about God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to 2018's God of War, that the game looks like DLC to him. And that sparked some controversy, and it's so funny because, I found, this is about the only thing that I could find. So like I said, I looked for the tweet, and the only thing that I could find was this one here, which is sort of a response to after the fact. After he tweeted out what he said about Ragnarok looking like DLC, this looks like a sort of a clearing of the air. And this is what he said. I'm not talking about this anymore beyond this. I don't think calling something DLC is an insult. It means more of the same. If you call something DLC to one of the best games of 2018 for X, you're not saying it looks bad. You are simply saying it looks like more of the same. Okay, just with that right there, I can kind of garner what was happening here. Okay, first of all, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. He has credentials, and I understand. He's a known name in the industry. That's fine. But you know what you did. Like, you saying that, because, so let's talk about what DLC is for you normies. Like, if you're a normie that doesn't know what it is, DLC stands for downloadable content. And when you buy a game like Ghost of Tsushima, that's a great example. They have the base game that you buy. You play through the campaign, you have fun, beat the game, it's over. So developers, not all, but some developers will work on creating what's called downloadable content, DLC. And it's usually a smaller slice of more of the game, but usually it will take place with a side character or a new little map, a section of a map. And in Ghost of Tsushima's case, it introduced multiplayer. So it was DLC that It had a whole new little island that you can go to and fight and everything. And then it had multiplayer, which was really fucking fun. I enjoyed it. I got down on that for a minute with my friends. But it was free. You didn't have to pay for it. Now, not all DLC is free. Sometimes it's free, sometimes you pay, and either way it's fine. I don't have any problem if they give it away. If a dev gives it away for free, great. It's nice to have something like that, but I don't expect it, and I don't think it's required. However, the moniker of a sequel looking like DLC, that's a shot. Like that's not a fucking a compliment. That's not him saying this looks really fucking good. It looks like DLC. That's not a good thing. And so him making that comment, he fucking knows what he's doing. Now, he wasn't involved in the development of this game. Like I said, he developed, let me see real quick because I pulled up his name. So he was Twisted Metal. He was the designer of Twisted Metal in 95, Twisted Metal 2 in 96, Twisted Metal Black in 2001. He was the game director, and designer. And then in 2005, he was the game director, lead designer of God of War, and then he was the creative director on God of War 2. So he doesn't have anything to do with this game. God of War, the current God of War, is Sony Santa Monica, and they rebooted the game completely. It's a completely, they went a completely different direction, and I think it was all the better for it. It's an amazing game. But him making that comment, I think he knew it was kind of inflammatory. I think he knew what he was doing. He was taking a little fucking poke at something, and I think it's kind of a tool thing to do. Like, you're just being a douche. And then for him to sort of backtrack and say, like, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. I'm just making a compliment. I'm saying it's one of the best games, and it's just, but it looks like more of the same. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Okay. How can, and I've heard this before, specifically with Horizon Forbidden West. If you've listened to this podcast, I am not the biggest Horizon defender. Okay, I think the protagonist is boring. I think she's very bland, very beige. Her character's just kind of meh. Okay, I think the gameplay is really fun. I think the world looks amazing. I think the map is really cool. I don't think the story is strong. I don't think the characters are that great. However, I still think it's a really good game. It's a really good game, but it's not perfect, and it has its flaws, and it has things that it has her Medusa hair. It has problems with it. But I'm not here to champion Horizon Forbidden West. But people in comments, people on podcasts were saying, well, I think that this is just more of Horizon Zero Dawn. And it's like, well, how is that? How can you say that? It's a continuation of a story. So it's not the same fucking story, right? So it's continuing on. It's my understanding, because I haven't beat it, but it's furthering the story and adding a new element to the story. The gameplay has grown. Okay. My understanding is machines are different. The open world is different in different aspects. The characters that you meet and the way that the story flows with side quests and things is different. I don't see how you can say it's quote DLC, and I don't see how saying that it's more of the same is a bad thing. I've never understood that. So, and be careful with that one, right? Because you say that shit, and that means like, so Forza Horizon, 2 and Forza Horizon 3, oh, it's DLC. Sorry. So Forza Horizon 5 that just came out, sorry, I think that's just DLC. It looks just like DLC. It's like, no, it's not. It's completely different. It's a completely different map. It has, they've made improvements. That's not a fair assessment. And any sort of sequel, talking about David Jaffe's own fucking creations, Twisted Metal 1 and 2 weren't that fucking different. I played them both. God of War 1 and 2, I played and beat all God of War 1, 2, and 3. I thought they were all more of the same, but that wasn't a bad thing. I loved it. They grew the combat. They added moves. They changed the way the game played. You had a totally different story. The story it was a continuation of the story. So for him to make this fucking comment, I just think it was kind of a shot. I think it was kind of a cheap one at that. And it's like he's throwing some shit on the new creators of God of War and taking a shot at them for what reason? So and again, what you're doing, okay? In the gaming world, and that sort of talk and making that sort of comment, it's not a compliment. So he knew what he was doing. So he needs to shut the fuck up. But anywho's, and again, I want to say this, if, him coming out and saying, it's one of the best games or whatever, and him trying to button it up and put a lid on it, he knows, like, he is aware of what he did. He's aware that he caused some problems. And I could see some of the tweets on there that people are like, oh my God, you can't say shit about, Sony. That's the rule and all this shit. And it's like, really? That's like, anytime someone says something like that about PlayStation in general, just like, well, you can't talk shit on PlayStation because they'll fucking cry about it. It's like, no one will say anything bad about Xbox. Like, no one will actually say anything. So, but again, that's that tug of war, fanboys and all that other shit. I got no problem with fanboys. You like and here's the one thing I want to talk about real quick, because I was thinking about this, because I was listening to another podcast, and every time someone brings up the fanboy thing, it always sort of, I don't know why, just it kind of gets under my skin a little bit. It doesn't piss me off, but it's like, why are you saying that? Because it's always a negative connotation. Like, being a fan of Xbox or being a fan of Nintendo or Sony is a bad thing. Okay. The counter to that, which I hear a lot, is always, I own an Xbox Series X, I own a PS5, and I own a Switch OLED, and I own a PC rig. So I'm agnostic. I play everything. So I don't really partake in this sort of toxic fanboyism. Okay, first of all, not everyone can afford all that shit. Okay, PC rigs are not cheap. The Switch OLED isn't cheap. The PS5, the Xbox Series X are not fucking cheap. I mean, that's like, just right there, just naming off all of those systems, you probably spend, what, $3,000, maybe more, depending on how fancy your rig is. Not everyone can spend that type of money. So I don't really like that argument. So when people, and I see that in comments all the time, I'm not a fan of anything. I play all the shit. I own all the stuff. And it's like, well, cool story, bro. Good for you. That's fine. But that doesn't mean you're better than somebody. It doesn't mean shit, So just, if you don't like the argument, stay the hell out of it. But the thing that I've always said is, people base a lot of their decisions on money, and buying an Xbox right now, a Series X, I'm not talking about the S, because I know the S is a very cheaper version, but it's not the X, okay? Is not the X. The Series X is the big bad dog that I feel like is being wasted on the horsepower side. But regardless, it's not cheap. The thing costs like, what was it, like $600? The PS5, that thing set me back, because I had to buy a bundle. That thing set me back like $700. Okay, that was a hard purchase. Okay, you don't think I was like checking with Normie wife, like, hey, listen, babe, I really want this, but she knows I'm a gamer. She knows this is what she bought into. Like, I'll work as much as I need to work. I'll save as much as I need to save. I'll eat ramen noodle or whatever, if that means getting the next console as early as possible, because I'm an early adopter when it comes to consoles. I love gaming. This is what I do. It's my hobby. But even so, I'm like, yo, babe, it's really expensive. And she's like, that's fine. Just get it. You're good. That's fine. So it wasn't like I was like, 700, no biggie. Bullshit. I got bills to pay. I got a fucking mortgage. I got fucking lights to pay for, So, and I get that. And so I understand that it's just not easy for everyone to go out and buy every single console. And if you can, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. I have 2 of those consoles. I have a Switch. I bought a Switch many, many years ago when it first came out, because I wanted to get one. But I just think that when people throw that sort of argument around when it comes to like the fanboy stuff, it just always comes off as snooty. It just comes off as a little bit smug, and I don't really like it, But again, I think I'll say it again. I think fandoms are good for industry. Competition is how you create greatness. If you don't have competition, you'll never know how good you can ever be. If you're never pushing yourself against something else. You have to compare yourself to something else. If you're ever trying to achieve something more, and like Sony is pushing on Xbox, Xbox is pushing back on Sony, Nintendo's over here doing their own thing. But if you don't think that Xbox and Sony are not chasing some of what Nintendo's got, trust me, they are. But that's how shit gets good. That's how you make greatness. So I still don't understand that fanboy shit. Just I don't get it. Be a fan of whatever you want to be. Just don't be a dick. Don't harass people. Don't threaten people, because I've seen some of that stuff, and it's like, oh boy, like when people get on the keyboard and they're just like, and they're like, oh, you say that to my face and all this other shit. And you're just like, okay, like if you have to take it to that then you've lost the argument. The debate is ended. It's over. As soon as you call someone stupid or, a moron or Sony pony or an X-bot, and then you start getting into like that threat and shit, you've lost the debate. You have nothing left to say. You go to name calling, it's childish and shit. So it cracks me up. All right, so let's move along here. So the PlayStation Plus tiers have gotten a release date. So that is some good news. This is on the PlayStation blog. So the all-new PlayStation Plus launches in June with 700 plus games and more value than ever. That's some marketing speak right there. PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now come together. Players can choose from 3 flexible options, yada, yada, yada. So let's see here. We're making fantastic progress with our launch efforts. Excuse me. I gotta take a drink. All this talking, my mouth gets dry. We're making fantastic progress with our launch efforts, and I wanted to update you on the latest. We're rolling out our new offering for PlayStation Plus a little earlier in select markets in Asia, followed by Japan. Here's a look at our updated regional rollout schedule. So Asia markets excluding Japan, targeting May. It says targeting, so it didn't say it's happening. So they're targeting May 23rd of 2022, and then this is all this year, so I'm not going to say the year. And then Japan targeting June 1st, and then the Americas targeting June 13th. So where are we at? April, May. So yeah, we're what 6 weeks away? So not too far off. And then Europe targeting June 22nd. So in 2 months, it'll pretty much be rolled out. Now, that's assuming everything rolls out as they would like it to, because there's no guarantees, right? So we'll see what happens. But that's good news. I'm happy about that. I'm interested to see what's going to happen here. And just real quick, I'm not going to read every single one of them, but there are 3 different tiers: PlayStation Plus Essential, PlayStation Plus Extra, and Premium. So the one that I'm probably going to buy is right around what I'm already paying, and that's the PlayStation Plus Extra. It's got 400 games, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have backwards compatibility, and I know people freak out over that. Like, oh, why do you have to pay for backwards compat? Microsoft doesn't do that. Okay, that's cool. It's not the same thing as Microsoft. They're not the same company. So, all right. So let's move along here. So this is the final story. So this is Ubisoft shopping suitors. So Ubisoft is, let me see here. What was that article? There was more than one article that I wanted to read. So right here, this is on PlayStationLifestyle.net. Report: Ubisoft drawing buyout interest from several equity firms. Ubisoft Ubisoft actually is short for ubiquitous software. So Ubisoft might be the next big game company to get bought out. Several private equity firms are rumored to be looking at the French video game publisher, but no one has made public their interest yet. While Ubisoft has fought to retain its independence in the past, bad press and missed sales targets have affected the company's valuation over the past few years. Let's see here. According to Bloomberg, private equity firms Blackstone Inc. and KKR and Company are among those that have been eyeing Ubisoft for a takeover. However, this would likely be an amicable buyout, unlike what Vivendi attempted a few years back. Ubisoft is one of the biggest third-party publishers left, but times are changing. Sony and Microsoft have realized that first-party exclusives are a significant factor in brand loyalty, and they're pulling out all the stops to secure iconic IPs for their consoles. Microsoft is trying to acquire Activision Blizzard, and Sony will likely be looking for a purchase on that scale to bolster its stable of developers and IPs further. Perhaps investors are looking to take it over and make a quick profit by selling it to Microsoft or Sony. Ubisoft is in a different place than it was in 2018, and amidst scandal and underperforming games might have taken the fight out of the co-founder and chairman, Yves Guillemot. Guillemot, who also owns 15% stake in Ubisoft, might be ready to cash out after shares have fallen 41% in value. Bloomberg stated that Ubisoft responded to inquiries with a statement that, quote, it's built a strong portfolio and is ideally positioned to capitalize on emerging opportunities and rapid growth in the industry, end quote. However, it declined to comment on any takeover interests. So I've been a fan of Ubisoft for many years. I play a lot of their games. I'm not one of those people that feels like, Ubisoft is a shit developer and they don't know what they're doing. Also, I think I think they get a lot of bad press, and I think some of the bad press they have gotten is earned. They have earned some of the stank that's getting thrown on them with NFTs, which I still need to do the video on, but I won't talk about it right now. So NFTs, which were new, with the Tom Clancy brand that they own, the IP, that name alone, the way they're handling their live service games, there are things that they are not doing right. And on top of all of that, on just the development side, they've had problems with allegations with bad work environment. I don't remember specifics, but I know it was very recent that some people came out and said that there was some I don't know if it was like sexual harassment. I think it was, but I'm not going to say that. Let's just say it was a hostile work environment or a bad work environment. And so it doesn't look good for them right now. But I think it's so funny that, and they mentioned it in here, there was a company called Vivendi that not too long ago, they were trying to buy out Ubisoft. And I thought it was funny because back then, and I think this was like in 2018, if I can get this article to load, I will show you. But so there was a company called Vivendi who was basically buying up their stock in big chunks. And hold on, sorry, my computer's being stupid. I'm trying to get this page to go. Here we go. So this is an article from 2018, March 20, 2018. Vivendi's attempt at a hostile takeover of Ubisoft is over. So this company came in and they bought up a bunch of the stock. And I thought it was interesting because back then it was a hostile takeover, and Yves Guillemot and Ubisoft and proper were like, we need to stop this. This isn't right. Calling bullshit and saying this is wrong, and we don't want this, and we don't want to lose our creative authority. We want to make the games that we want to make, and yada yada yada. And it's so funny because since 2018 they have had a lot of troubles with the development shit, with the work environment shit. And now it's like, we've created all of this great portfolio and we think it's time. It's like, no, you don't. That's not what you think. If everything was fucking roses right now and they were just putting out bangers, they'd be like, fuck all you guys. We're gonna start our own streaming service. That's what they were doing, because they started off, they had humble beginnings, and they built up their portfolio. They did do that. They put out some really good games that I love. Some of my favorite games, like top 20 games of all time. There's some Ubisoft games up in there, but they've just gotten too big for their britches, and they've made some really bad decisions. They really have. Like the Splinter Cell is oh God, Tom Clancy. Geez, I drew a blank. Splinter Cell is a Tom Clancy IP, and Tom Clancy is the games that they have made with the Tom Clancy moniker. They've been hit and miss, and the Tom Clancy Splinter Cell game itself, that license has been wasted, in my opinion. It's been squandered, but they have done some good. What's the game? Splinter Cell, Tom Clancy, I think it's called Splinter Cell Siege, or no, I'm sorry, Tom Clancy's Siege or something like that. That's a multiplayer only game. That's a very popular game. Never was my thing, but I've watched people play it and I know what it's all about. It looks really cool. The game looks good, and I think that I think if they would have done that, and then if they would have taken the Division, which I liked the Division. I thought the Division 1 was good. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was like fantastic, but it was fun. The time that I played with it, it was great. I had a good time with it. The Division 2, I really liked. I had a lot of fun playing that with my friends and leveling up and all that other shit. And I thought the Washington D.C. the map was really cool. And then they came out with they went back to New York as like a DLC, and I was like, hey, jumped in on that, had fun with that. But then they just went quiet. They just really are not supporting that game anymore. And there's been some big update that's been rumored for like over a year now. Still nothing. It just keeps getting pushed off. And, they took Assassin's Creed in all these different directions. And I think that they were there. It's funny because Assassin's Creed was getting very samey, And it was so funny. I remember listening to so many people complain about it, like, oh, it's the same game every year. It's the same fucking game. Why you guys keep paying for this shit? So then Ubisoft redid the game, completely changed everything about the game with Assassin's Creed Origins, a game I really liked. And then it was like a total, like everybody who said like, "Oh man, where's the old stuff? I miss the old style. Why are we doing this? This is stupid." And it's like, you're just not happy. You just don't like the IP. That's fine. You don't like the game, don't play it. And when they went to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I really liked that game. I thought it was fun, but I understand why people like this stealth part. I did miss that. I still wanted that back. And they went into Valhalla, and I've talked about that before. But my point is they do try to adapt, and they do try to make changes. They Far Cry is another one of their IP that they people that has the same moniker of like it's the same old game. It really isn't. It really is not. They really do make adaptations, and they try to iterate on the IP. So I think they've gotten some bad press for some decisions and for the work environment shit, but I don't think that this is one of them. And I don't think, well, and it's so funny because who was it? I forgot. It was one of the Ubisoft developers, or a couple of them came out and took a shot at Elden Ring not too long ago, and I talked about it. That's just another thing. Like, why are you fucking saying anything about Elden Ring? Like, it's game of the year, hands down. That game's gonna win game of the year. There's just too many people love that game, and maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. But that's what I think. I think that's a lock. But they came out and started taking shots at Elden Ring, and I was like, why are you doing this, dude? Shut the fuck up. Especially with Ubisoft, like it's like you do realize that there are plenty of low hanging fruit shots that people could take at you right now. And they did. They got just roasted for it, as they rightfully should have. But my point is I think that Ubisoft is actually a good developer. I don't think that they're shit. They've made some definite bad mistakes in the recent years. They do try to do different things. Like you look at like For Honor, you look at what was that? Oh, the game that just came out. It's like the X Games type shit. What's the other one? The Crew. They have tried different things, and I applaud them for that. And I wish more studios would do things like that. I mean, I was just listening to a podcast today, and they're talking about how Naughty Dog is coming out with their next game, and it's like, Naughty Dog has done nothing but Last of Us and Uncharted for, a really long time. They would like to see them do something different. I agree. Like Sony Santa Monica, what they did with God of War, they completely changed that game entirely, made it a completely different game, and it's great. But they're only doing 2 games, and then they're moving on. That's a good thing. Guerrilla Games, they were doing Killzone for many years, and then they was like, hey, can we do something different? Sony said sure. So they went after and did an open world. Now Horizon's there, and it's a known franchise. So I think that I do like to see studios change it up. I like them to take risks. Child of Light, that was the game I was thinking of. It was a type of game that I don't play, but it's basically like an RPG, like side scroller. But Rayman Legends, that was another one too. See, the games just keep coming to me, so it's like they have done a lot. There's a lot of things that they have done that are really good, and I think that there's a lot of quality IP in there. And personally, if I'm Sony, this is the one that I'm going to grab. Right now, it's like buy low, sell high. This is the perfect time to grab them up. If you could, I mean, just imagine for a second, if Sony grabbed Ubisoft and they got the Tom Clancy IP, I mean, who better than to take a shot at a stealth game, like an actual true Tom Clancy style stealth game? I mean, I think Sony has, they have proven that they know how to manage their studios well. Their studios are putting out quality games. What if Naughty Dog got a hold of that? What if Naughty Dog was going to develop the next Splinter Cell game? I mean, that's something that's risky, but man, Naughty Dog, I don't like Neil Druckmann. I think he's a fucking tool. But that studio, they know how to fucking make games. They make quality shit. They can't write a story for shit in The Last of Us 2, but regardless, I still think that would be something that's exciting. Also, there are a lot of multiplayer games, live service games. Sony has said that this is what they want to do. They want to get into the live service game. That's why they teamed up with Bungie. I think the Bungie deal was kind of bullshit. I wish they would have just bought them outright and said, yeah, you're with us. You're a first party studio. You're going to do we're going to let you make your games, but you're our studio. I think that would have been a smart move. But if you take like Siege, that Rainbow Six Siege game, that's what it was. Rainbow Six Siege, that's what it was. Rainbow Six Siege. You take Splinter Cell. You take the Assassin's Creed. Which, hey, that's a known IP. They can take a couple of years off. Maybe they can reinvent that game too and bring it back home to like actual Assassins, type of shit. The Division. That's another games of service. Maybe they take games of Division, and Sony just puts a lot of resources at it, and they make the Division 3 come out and just be fucking the next 10-year game. The next Destiny or whatever. Like Ubisoft originally wanted to do. They were copying Bungie, that they were trying to do the Bungie formula, the looter shooter. This could be it. This could be their time. So I think that Sony is probably the best, and Microsoft has the money. They can do it, but Microsoft has Bethesda, and now they have Activision Blizzard. So they've wrangled themselves a lot of IP, a lot of good ones. This, to me, this is a good time for Sony to go in, because I think they could actually get Ubisoft on a deal. They can get a good deal for them, because they can just say, like, listen, you wouldn't be out here fucking shopping, if you knew that you didn't need someone to buy you up. They're struggling right now, so strike while the iron's hot, Sony. I think this is, to me, that makes the most sense. But who knows? Microsoft like I said, they have endless money, so they can just buy them up just to despite Sony, just to fuck them over. And I will say this, and I want to reiterate, I do not like the idea of Microsoft and Sony owning every IP. That's not a good thing. That's not. I think in the end, you fast forward the video of this setup of these two corporations vacuuming up everything they see. All it takes is the heads of these companies to start making decisions like Netflix. And look at what's going on there. Where ideology and politics, that shit can start really infecting. All it has to do is infect at the top. And that's how this fucking shit usually works. Politics is like poison, and there's ideology that's fucking just venom. And once it gets in the bloodstream, it's hard to get out. And if Sony and Microsoft were to follow along with companies like Twitter and like Facebook and pulling the same bullshit that they pull, I mean, we could be fucked as gamers. We could be stuck with political bullshit jammed down every fucking game, and it's already, like, I've already seen it happen right now. And I don't like it. And I like I said, I don't like to see any of that shit in any games. Keep it out. It's escapism. I don't want to fucking think about current political situations, and I don't want to think about social agenda situations. I just don't want to fucking deal with it. That's gaming is an escapism. That's what it's for. And I just think it's a slippery slope. I think it really is. But now, I mean, it's what's happening. I can't stop it. You can't stop it. So I think Sony, this works. I think this is a good fit for them. I think there's a lot of things here that they really could stretch their legs and do the things that they want to do more of. Look at Assassin's Creed. That stupid movie came out. What if they came out and made a good one? Maybe they take Assassin's Creed and they fucking make a badass Assassin's Creed movie, like an actual good movie. There's a lot of stuff here that Sony could toy with. And again, it's in line with the things that they say they want to do. So I'll be curious, see what happens. All right, that's going to be it for me. It's kind of late now, 10:12, not too bad. But I got to wrap it up for the night. So with that said, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you stopping by. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button yet, I wouldn't mind it at all. Please click the thumbs up as well, because I understand, I guess it helps the algorithm. And I could use all the help I can get. If you think somebody else might like the video, share it with a friend. Other than that, you have a great night, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.